You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the October 21st, 2022 special meeting of the LaPorte County Election Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Call the meeting of the LaPorte County Board of Elections to order here. It's 12:06 on Friday, October 21st, 12:06 p.m. If we could start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with roll call, and then we'll go into that a little bit. Chuck Watterson, present in person. Nelson Bichardo, Vice President.
Present via Zoom.
All right, and Heather Stevens, Clerk and Secretary.
I am present on Zoom as well.
Okay, so we do not have a quorum based on the county's remote meeting policy. So we won't be voting on anything today, but we will hear everything as far as the normal course of business. So we'll start with public comment. That's open for anybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is this working? I don't hear it in the room, but I guess it's working. Tim Stabos, 1501 Michigan Avenue. I'm the auditor of LaPorte County and the president of the 463 GOP Club, which is the civic club of the Republican Party. I have a passionate interest in the propriety of government actions and actors and would like to comment on the matter before you today. Fair disclosure, everyone knows that I have an interest in candidates and candidacies and that I am actively supporting Republican candidates, but I'm speaking as a private citizen today. As to the matter on your agenda, the action of John and Mary Lake goes against the letter and the spirit of the law. There is a reason that someone cannot serve as the chair of a candidates committee and the treasurer of a PAC at the same time. It's to prevent the creation of sham entities to funnel money through, creating a false impression of support and intentionally misleading the public as to who is spending the money. Make no mistake, Republicans for Lake is fundamentally a sham entity. For one, the chairman of the committee until a few years ago was a registered Democrat who himself ran as a Democrat both for sheriff and for LaPorte City Council in the First Ward. It's particularly sinister and ugly that with the campaign finance reports filed, or due in any case today, $650 of the $750 contributed to Republicans for Lake is contributed by John Lake's wife, Mary Lake. Mary Lake is a registered Democrat. Couldn't the Lakes at least find a legitimate Republican to be the treasurer? Or is Rick Kentaff, the chairman, the only true nominal Republican they could find to support them in the creation of this sham entity? As far as John Lake's explanation that he was too busy and forgot to file an amended organization form for the PAC, that is unacceptable. He will perhaps forgive some of us for believing that he simply backdated the form to create a cover story before alleging to forget turning it in. As seems self-evident, the only reason he turned in the form in the first place is because the complaint was filed by the LaPorte County Republican Party, who caught the illegal action of the Lakes. It is also particularly dismaying and in fact disgusting the two people who have been in charge of overseeing prosecutions and enforcement of the law in LaPorte County and overseeing a grand jury investigating corruption have, in my opinion, not just sought to cover up a technical violation, but flouted the spirit of the state law. In my opinion, this is a reflection on their moral character and their fitness to serve in their position. This is not the first time I've seen the Lakes act unethically in a conflicted manner. One only need read this week's regional news to see the unbecoming way the Lakes do business in LaPorte County. The question I would have in closing is, am I, as a once and future candidate, simply allowed to flout the law, as well as make naked misrepresentations of the source of my political support? And is there somehow more justification for my doing it if I am politically desperate? I would urge you to sanction the Lakes because someone needs to oversee the rule of law in LaPorte County, especially in this case, where those enforcing the law are the lawbreakers. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to come up for public comment.
Sure.
Yeah, the evidence will show that there was no violations of the law. You know, there was a delinquent report filed. As to all the ramblings of Mr. Stabos, I think we've heard it over the last 2 years. Corruption. Where's the proof? So that's all I have to say.
Thank
I
you.
think actually that's an endorsement.
You say that it oversees the grand jury.
Oh,
That's a conflict right there.
no, I didn't talk about it.
Please just address the election board, guys. Please, next for public comment.
The grand jury's done that, huh? No corruption.
Good afternoon. Kaylin Deckard, Scipio Township Trustee, 1482 West 500 South. Can I give this to you, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That is a copy that I have printed off from the county's website under the election of everybody who has been listed to run. On there, my last name is misspelt, so on there is the correct spelling. I did contact the clerk's office. They have advised me that it is correct on the ballot, but I would just kind of like them to run through and make sure that all candidates are listed and that their names are spelled correctly.
Sure. And just for the record, it's what you wrote here in handwriting. That's the correct spelling.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the town or the website has Ludlow Decker, and it's actually Ludlow Deckard.
Correct, sir.
Okay. We'll get that changed. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brent Bannock, 2924 Tilden Ave. I am the candidate for the Michigan Township Assessor's Office. Just to follow up with Kaylin, my position is not listed on the county website election page. I did check with the Indiana voter portal, and I am on the ballot, but my position is not listed on there at all.
And again, Michigan Township Assessor.
Yes.
Well, these are easy things to fix because this is just what's on the county website is for candidates. So
Correct.
definitely something that needs to be changed, and we'll get it changed. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment still open? Anybody? Anybody on Zoom with public comment? All right, public comment period is now closed. We'll move on to the only matter on the agenda today, which is the complaint filed against, I guess it's filed against John Lake. So we'll open this up with, we had a complaint submitted by Chairman Alan Stevens of the Republican Party, alleged a violation of Indiana Code 3-9-1-13, which states in part that chairperson of the committee to elect John Lake is the same as the treasurer of Republicans for Lake PAC. This was at the time of the complaint, so was the treasurer of the still is the treasurer of the PAC, but that has since been changed for the chairperson of the committee to elect John Lake. Indiana Code states that the PAC treasurer may not be chair of another campaign committee. So at that point, I will open up the floor to the person that the complaint's been alleged against, and that would be John Lake.
Well, procedurally, I'd like to know a few issues. First of all, you have a member that has a conflict since her husband filed the complaint. So is she going to be participating in this decision?
We've discussed that, and she's going to abstain from the voting process of this.
Okay. Secondly, what I note is that this is a complaint against me, and not against. And I noticed that the Republicans for Lake, Mary Lake, and Rick Kentaft have not been noticed, and no complaint has been filed against them. So, as any allegations as to that, as you can see from the filing on September 30th, which I admit was delinquent, the chairman, Mary Lake, was not the chairman of the committee to elect John Lake prosecutor at the time that she became the treasurer of the Republicans for Lake. So, I just ask that the complaint be dismissed.
So at the time the complaint was filed would have been prior to the amendment being filed.
Yeah. So, but the time the chairman was appointed on September 1st. She was no longer chairman as of September 1st, 2022. She signed it as treasurer on September 2nd, 2022. So the change in chairmanship pursuant to law happens at the date that you sign the form, not the date it's filed. That's under 39110.
I understand. Mr. Lake's got the mic right now. So there is an election code that the report needs to be changed within, or needs to be reported within 10 days. to the
Sure.
proper board. So at this time, I mean, we'll discuss that. What you suggest here was the dismissal when we have a quorum and can meet on that at the next meeting. But we just wanted a chance for you to present what the allegations are at this time, now that the complaint is still in action. We just wanted you to present your side of the complaint.
Well,
Mr. Watterson,
Yeah.
if I may, I think we should take into table the decision regarding dismissing the case regarding Mr. Lake's request. But I just want to confirm that I understand what he's saying. Mr. Lake, are you suggesting that the signature that was put under the pact, that it was at a different time frame that it was under the other paperwork? I'm not quite following the request for the dismissal.
He's saying that
you have two different things. You have a complaint against a PAC, saying Republicans for Lake PAC, saying that Mary Lake or Maria A. Lake was treasurer at the same time she was chairman. She was no longer the chairman as of September 1st, 2022, which is the CFA 1 that was filed on September 30th, which is dated, the date it was signed by Maria H. Lake, which is my daughter, as of 9/1/2022, and me as 9/1/2022. So Mary was not a treasurer or a chairman of any committee as of September 2nd, when she became the treasurer of the PAC. You filed a
Okay, so you're
complaint
saying that there's no overlap, is what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, as for the signatures, it's just it wasn't filed until a month later. So nobody knew that.
Yeah, it's just it's a delinquent report. It's not a violation of law.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, because under 39110, you file the report after within 10 days following the change. The change is effective. There's a misunderstanding that they're alleging that the filing date takes precedence. It does not. The change takes place. Otherwise, you would not. If you appoint a chairman, then you'd have two chairmen until such time as you file a report. You don't get 10 days to do that. So the effective date is a date of file as a date of signing. It's not like a report for financial where it has to be filed that date by a certain time. Even though you can have a defective or a delinquent report, this was just a delinquent report that wasn't filed. I understand what they're thinking. They're thinking that she was both the chairman and the treasurer, but she wasn't. So as to the Republicans for Lake Committee, there's no violation for that PAC. The only issue would be whether or not there's a civil penalty for me filing a delinquent notice.
Right, and I think that's included in what we'll be discussing is that delinquent report.
Right. So I mean, the first thing was in order to dismiss the complaint against Mary Lake and the Republicans for Lake. The second issue they have to consider is whether or not what kind of penalty you could impose, because I admit that this was filed, and I think I explained the situation when you called me. I found out about it, and I found the form. And the reason is, if you look at the form here and you see the date of organization, the 2/8/18, I was trying to find that date because I didn't have it. And actually in the complaint, they listed incorrectly as February 15th. That's the date we had filed it with the election board. But the effective date is actually February 8th of 2018. What I was also looking for is that they give you a file number and they say that if you file this as a defective, where you file an inaccurate report or as required, it becomes a B misdemeanor. So I wanted to make sure that I was correct. And at that time, I didn't get it. I didn't get filed. I can go into the reasons for that, but I was covering for Atlee, and Mark Rule was leaving and Sarah was coming back. So there's a lot of things going on in the office at that
You are watching
time. So
Access LaPorte County,
1st. But
Channel 97.
the change was effective as of
Coming
September
up
1st.
next is the October 21st,
But if you look at that, under the county
2022
election board,
special
under
meeting of the
39417,
LaPorte County Election Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting
and you look at number C, or, subsection C, which where you can impose a penalty for a delinquent report. There's a difference. These are identical statutes, except for the fact that in the county election board, it doesn't give the penalty is $50 for each day the report is late, but that doesn't say statement. And this is what was late was not. It's a statement of the change. And if you look at 39416, which is dealing with the election commission, The same statute under C says the penalty is $50 for each day the report or statement is late. And what I'm saying is you have to take strict construction of the statute, and that there's no penalty for the late report. You can try and impose one, but that does not comply with. Why would you have two statutes identical to each other?
No penalty for the late statement. That's
Right.
what you're saying. Okay.
Right. And you know, been doing this. We've never filed a late report. We filed a late statement. So I would put to you that it was a good faith mistake on my part based on the fact that I was doing that and what was going on at the time with the office, me covering. I was getting prepared for a speedy murder trial that I had just taken over from Mark. Right. I'd gotten that file August 31st, September 1st, right in that area because he was leaving, originally supposed to be leaving on September 2nd. We extended that over the weekend so he could assist in transferring that file over. So I was focused on other things than this. So when you called me, I went home and found it sitting on my desk that night. And I think I even texted you a picture of it. Here, I found it. This is what it is. So
Sure. And as far as the, so we have the 39110, which is the failure to report the new change within 10 days.
Right.
And you're admitting today that
yeah, that had it should have been
violation of that.
it should have been filed on 9/12 because 9/11 was a Sunday. So yeah. And what I'm saying is that if you impose that there's an issue with the amount of the penalty that can be imposed, they're identical. And you have to look at 16 and 17 under that statute, the election commission versus the election board, local election board, and they take out the word statement. And so, you know, as you know, and I know Nelson knows, strict instruction on penalties. You can only do what the statute allows you to do. And if you know, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay. Thank you. So we will take all that under advisement for the next meeting because we need to look into a few things. You know, that's why you're supposed to come to these hearings to let us know your side. We've got the complainant side. As far as the, now I'm not making a decision on this, but just my discussion on this matter, as far as the criminal allegations in here, it mentions the fraud and false report. My position on that is that the report's not fraudulent. It wasn't made by someone, statement or report. We have to determine that. It's not fraudulent. It was not made by someone purporting to be somebody else. The false report, I don't think it's a false report. It's a very complete and accurate report. It's just a violation of the Indiana election code, either 13 or 10, depending on which way we rule. Since it has since been rectified. So I don't think it meets any reason to submit this for, you know, criminal investigation at this time. But we'll definitely be looking into the admitted violation of 39110 and then your position on 39113 and the penalties for.
Well, I think if you're going to do that, you'd have to give notice to Mary and Mr. Kentap because you're alleging that a crime occurred. Then she would have notice to come here to give her side of the story as well.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be any
Okay.
disagreement on crimes.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, and I correct me if I'm wrong, Heather or Nelson, but I don't think either of you are wanting to forward this for criminal prosecution. We haven't made a decision, obviously, but we're just looking at the election law violations.
Right. Just from my review of the issue, it's exactly how you pointed out, Mr. Watterson. I don't see any criminal violation here. It might be regarding the penalty that we have to impose for the report issue. But as far as a criminal matter, no, I don't. From my review of the material that we have received, I don't believe that needs to be forwarded on anywhere. But again, obviously, we're not voting on any of this, and we can make that decision and vote on it once we have a quorum at our next meeting.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lake?
Not unless you have any questions.
Did you have copies of the statute, or do you need those?
I can give these to you.
Okay.
I mean,
we have them. I got them written down, but if you've got a hard
here,
copy.
now, here, I'll just, hold on a second. I've written on them, so I hate to do that.
No work product?
Well, it's just, one says election commission, one says county election board, and I've highlighted it, so I don't think it's untoward. So you want both those?
Is it just the statutes of 17 and 16 that you have?
39416, 39417. Okay. I can give you those if you want them, and then you can share them with the commission. And then 39419 is the waiver of civil penalty. I think that's everything I talked about.
Sure. If you want to approach it those, that'd be cool. Thank you. All right, so we will review all that and table this for our next meeting, which I believe is going to be tentatively next Thursday. Obviously, we'll get this done before the election, but just want to have a chance to review all these materials. That's why we have these hearings, and then we'll go from there. So at this, Nelson, any comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for Mr. Lake. Mr. Lake, when did you find out of the mistake that was made on the reports?
929. I'd gotten a call or a message from while I was at the HealthLink thing about safe sleep from Mr. Watterson, and he alerted me that there had been something about the election board. So I thought, and I had received a message or an email the day before from Mr. Kentaft about alleged voter fraud. So I thought that's why he was calling me. And so I was a little confused when he started talking about Mary and Maria and what my daughter does. And, you know, so I blinked it. And then I called Mary, and she quickly said, this is what he's talking about. You can't be the treasurer and chairman at the same time. And I'm not,
right.
Remember? And that's how I found out about it. I told him I'd have to go home and look for the form because I figured I had it at home. And that's when I found it. I texted him that night when I got it.
Okay. And when was the mistake corrected?
I filed it the very next day.
September 30th is the day that the
Yeah, I found out on the 29th in the morning, and then I had to work all day. And so by the time it was probably 8 o'clock, maybe, I think I went home. And that's when I sent him a copy of it. I filed it the next morning in the morning, like right first thing.
So within a day, you corrected the mistake. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. I texted him a copy, a filed marked copy of it, Mr. Watterson, when I filed it that morning.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Heather, anything?
No, I think Mr. Lake just answered my questions.
All right, so we are done with that until the next meeting. And at this time, the election board meeting is adjourned. Thank you.